Space, the final frontier.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating.
Don't be fooled by the radio, the TV or the magazines.
I found this pretty interesting with William Shatner, of course, the former Captain Kirk on the TV show that aired from 1966 to 1969 called Star Trek. He's pushing the idea that science fiction and science are one and the same. And no doubt whatsoever that William Shatner is playing the role of controlled opposition. Also, to joke on the masses, a man, again, that played Captain Kirk in the original Star Trek series, all about exploring other worlds, is basically saying science and science fiction are one and the same. I found this very interesting with this interview with astronomymagazine.com. You have this guy here, no doubt a Mason. If you take a look at his channel, this guy is a Mason, no doubt, pushing the idea of other planets and space. There is no deep space. All we have is inner space, just like this 1987 movie. Truth in movies, lies in the news. This is how they do it. The world of opposites. Now let's take a listen to, again, what William Shatner says here.
Through your career and your writing and your acting, you've inspired so many people to enter the sciences. How do you balance science with science fiction?
They're both the same. The universe is 15 billion years old, roughly. What happened for 10 billion years? If our Earth evolved in 5 billion years, what was evolving? Did something other in the other 10 billion years?
See, this is the example I'm trying to explain here, how they use their controlled opposition, a puppet, for many decades in Hollywood with William Shatner, disputing the idea of science with, again, a man that was on this very famous TV show called Star Trek, pushing the idea of space. Find it very interesting how they basically are mocking the masses with using this character, the former character, I should say, with Captain Kirk, dismissing the idea of science.
Anyway, the mystery of science fiction is what I'm talking about. Science and science fiction are essentially the same.
Now, I found this interesting as well. Another convention with William Shatner. I find it interesting, the orange door for 33 in the back. Again, disputing science, disputing the idea of space. Take a listen.
And I've talked to Michio Kaku and David Suzuki, and I'm going in a couple of weeks to talk to Dr. Stephen Hawking. And I tried to get through his book, A Brief History of Time. It's not brief.
One thing I want to mention as well, all these people out here in the audience, they love the idea of Star Trek and the idea of space. And even though they laughed during his presentation, I'm sure deep down inside, they're very disappointed with what he says. Going against science, going against the idea of space. Take a listen.
And it doesn't have much to do with history. And everybody I've met who is acquainted with the subject, I'm continually asking, look, I hear space-time all the time. No, space-time, it's space-time. That without space, without time, it's time and space, and the space is the time. Hard to comprehend what it is. Well, I don't comprehend what it is, so I ask these very important people who are working in the field, what is space-time? And they say, well, the gravitational force takes the photon of a light and it bends the photon of light. So without space, without time, you have the time to come. I said, well, wait a minute. In the 13, and I said this to Dr. Kaku, in 13.5 years, he says, no, 13.8 billion years. He corrected me by 0.3. billion years. If that photon, I said to him, if that photon of light at that farthest galaxy takes 13.8 billion years to reach my eye, isn't that time? And he said, yes, but the space-time and the time and the space and the space and the time. One of the gentlemen said, well, there are three dimensions, space, length, width, right? And then you have the concept of time. So something happens within that space, you got time. That's the fourth dimension. Yeah. And I said, well, I get that. Something happens within a cube, and you have time, and then you have length and breadth and width. And I get that. What's the fifth dimension, I said. That's a fantastic band. A fantastic band. That was my first thing. So I said, just give me another, because he said there's 11, then he said there's 17, and then I heard lately there's 26 other spaces, dimensions, multiverses. No, wait a minute. So I said, well, just give me one other dimension. I don't care about 16 or 17 or 26. What is the fifth dimension? What is it? Give me another dimension. And the answer is, we can't conceive of that.
You know, right.
So
that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, it doesn't mean it does exist. You know, so I mean, so I said to Dr. Kaku, he said, it's in the, because he's working on string theory. You know about string theory.
Yeah, and I find that amusing too.
But we're not talking about the stuff you wrap a package about. It's vibration of some kind in a string. Okay? So I said, he said, it's like music. I said, well, I understand an orchestra with vibrating instruments. I got that. What do you play? What's your instrument? What do you do? When you get up in the morning, doctor, what do you do? And he says, it's all in my head. I think. I said, well, how do you prove what you're thinking exists? Because it's all theory. He said, well, I've got this very elegant numbers equation, yeah. Very E, B divided to 7 to 4. It's all in his head. How do you prove a black hole? How do you know those gravitational waves proved the collision of two black holes?
Somehow, eventually, they are able to observe phenomena.
No, they can't observe.
See exactly what's taking place here. Again, I can't say it enough, stress it enough. He's going against everything what people in the audience were hoping he would say. He wouldn't say. You know, they were hoping he would say, oh yes, you know, there's millions upon millions of other planets throughout this vast universe and all these other lives, and he's basically questioning everything. And these people here are, I'm sure, are dumbfounded by what William Shatner is saying. There's some polite laughter, you know, to support William Shatner, their, you know, so-called, you know, idol or hero from the Star Trek series. But again, these people, they're just playing games. It's all about mind games, what he's doing here.
It's too far away. It's too theoretical. How do we know what they're saying is true? You know what it really is? It's all science fiction.
So does that make you a skeptic?
Again, all the polite laughter. They don't want to hear it. Deep down inside, they're like, wow, can't believe he's saying this stuff.
No, well, science fiction says, this is a story that I'm making up. And there's this thing called wormholes. And that's a science fiction concept. Although these scientists say there are wormholes. How do you know?
And again, just more mockery. Take a look at this. With this footage from NASA's official YouTube channel. Basically, you know, he's saying supposedly NASA's doing amazing things. But at the same time, he's taking jabs at science once again. This is a complete joke, but again, I find this pretty humorous how they're using William Shatner to take cheap shots at science. Take a listen.
What NASA is doing with science
that is, when you look at it, is the equal of science fiction. How are you going to make a parachute that's going to stop a vehicle? It pops out and it's going to stop it. It's not a miracle.
Showing all this garbage animation. That's all they give us. Nothing but CGI, nothing but fakery. There's not one real image of the ball Earth, but people are so animate and so convinced that we live on a spinning ball, and there's absolutely zero proof. You go to NASA's official website, and they don't even deny that all their images of the supposed blue marble are nothing more than composites.
How much line do you need? What should the material be? How do you slow it down before and then you got to send a signal, and is it 7 or 9 minutes later, the signal? I mean, it's science fiction. Shadows that cross in front of a star that suggest there's a planet.
He just said it right there. He's saying a shadow through a telescope suggesting it's a planet. Give me a break.
And it's a big enough planet to be the size of the M1 of the Earth. Is it possible that life exists on that planet that's only a shadow in a telescope? Those are the imaginative things that NASA are looking at. That's every bit as passionately imaginative as science fiction.
There you go. And I found this very interesting. For those that know, of course, with the Star Trek ship Enterprise, and of course, NASA named their space shuttle after a fictional Enterprise spaceship. NASA's nothing more than fiction. That's what it all comes down to. Here's a look at the whole entire crew from the Enterprise, from this fictional show with this fictional space shuttle, which is nothing more than an airplane. I've demonstrated that many times. You could look at my other videos and I demonstrate how space shuttles are nothing more than airplanes. Never been in space, period. Now, with the occult of William Shatner and the reason people like him are propped up, those that run this world, they love these occultic numbers that translate into names. With William Shatner, first of all, before I get into the number of William Shatner, just take a look at his birth date. You have March 22nd. Of course, March being the third month of the year, you get your 322, which is all about skull and bones. Okay? Now let's take a look here as well when it comes to the name William Shatner, when it comes to numerology. Chaldean numerology, William Shatner is 44. The duality number, all about destruction as well. Now with those previous clips I showed with William Shatner basically mocking his fans, those that believe in the idea of space, this is nothing new. Going back in time with this clip from SNL, he's mocking his fans once again. Take a listen.
Get a life, will you, people? I mean, for crying out loud, it's just a TV show. I mean, look at you. Look at the way you're dressed. You've turned an enjoyable little job that I did as a lark for a few years into a colossal waste of time.
So you see there's nothing new under the sun as form of mockery with William Shatner. Nothing new under the sun when it comes to him at all. Now let's take a look here. You can show they're all working together. I mentioned many times, Jesse Ventura, nothing but a shill. You know, he went from professional wrestler to actor to governor. His real name is James Janos, born as James Janos, but uses his wrestling name as Jesse Ventura as governor. How obvious can it be? The world's nothing but a stage using actors. You know, in government, just like Ronald Reagan, just like they use Sonny Bono as a mayor, as they use Clint Eastwood as well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all actors, because politicians and actors, all the same. Of course, both are atheists as well. And here's a quote from William Shatner. My belief system is that when this is over, it's over. That you don't look down from heaven and wait for your loved ones to join you. There may be some soul activity, but I'm not sure about that. But what I am sure is that your molecules continue in due time, become something else. That's science. And again, people need to understand, he wouldn't have been in the movie industry, in TV, Hollywood for as long as he has if he was a believer. It's that simple. These Satanists, these Masons that own and control Hollywood, they would not allow it. So again, they're not going to promote someone that's a believer in Hollywood. They do have their fake, puppets playing the role of believers, but they're just playing the role on the world stage, the controlled opposition. One other thing that needs to be understood about these Hollywood actors and musicians is whenever they're on camera, they're still acting, still playing the role in the world stage. I'm going to play some other clips with William Shatner again, with him singing. Again, just more mockery. Take a look and listen. The one thing needs to be understood about these Hollywood actors, even when they're not, on the big screen or in a television series, whenever they're being interviewed during these segments like I showed, they're still acting. No different. And I'll play some other videos, short clips, of just more mockery when it comes to William Shatner. Take a look.
I'm not the man they think I am. Oh, no.
As sweet as any harmony. Oh, she blinded me with science.
She blinded me with science.
Blinded me with science.